It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
All right, hello everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to the third episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, the podcast. Dustin Nielson, Joaquin Gage, and Matt Kassian with you. Hernan in the corner, making sure we are streaming live on Facebook. Hernan, are we in fact streaming live on Facebook?
We sure are.
All right, excellent. We are off and running with episode 3, and we've had 2 people bail on us already today. Peter Loubardias had to bail last second. And we had Jermaine Franklin. He had to bail earlier this morning because we were going to talk a little bit about the Flames. But the good news is that us being here in Alberta, we can talk about the Oilers and Flames quite a bit. So we'll get to that. Brayden Point, obviously, signing a deal. We'll get into that today as well. The Two Guys and a Goalie podcast is presented to you by OddsShark, and we're going to get into some of the Pacific Division odds on OddsShark as well. We've also got Popeyes Chicken and Sport Clips on board as well, so we'll discuss that as we work our way through the podcast. Episode 3 now, though, and we were just talking about it before we went on, before we went live, about how our families are reacting to the podcast so far. And I mean, let's be honest, probably about 75% of views and listens so far have been family members. Cass, first of all, is it your wife? Is it your mom? Like, what's happening here?
My mom, the comment was, you guys need to do something with the sound. It sounds so tinny.
That's
a terrible impression of my mom.
She's an audio engineer.
Well, she knows what she's talking about with that kind of stuff. But she was like, it's way too tinny. You guys need to fix it. I'm like, Mom, we're working on it.
We are working. We're
getting better, Mom. Every episode.
We've got a full box of soundproofing gear over here. We just haven't put it up yet. So. Yeah. We'll get there at some point.
We'll get there. And then my wife was like, I didn't even know you guys started recording. And I was like, well, it was supposed to be practice. Like, this wasn't supposed to be live or anything that the world actually heard.
For episode 1, yeah.
For episode 1. And so she didn't even know. And we had I think I told you this before. We do we do marriage work. We do some marriage stuff together. And
I need that.
Yeah, it's good. No, you know what?
So you guys just chat, make sure you
Well, that's part of it. We go through. I'm a church guy, and so we go through a little bit of some study and some work on that, and then after that we have some conversations about other things and like how we're doing and just marriage work stuff we have to talk about. We deal with and. So that was on Monday. Usually it's on Sunday nights, but for whatever reason we couldn't. So it was Monday night, and so it's like I was focused on that, and so I didn't even think of being like, "Hey, we did the podcast today." So I didn't even tell her, which is
my wife and our work usually revolves around white wine, rosé, and The Bachelorette. That's how we work on ourselves.
And that's when you're like, okay, I guess I'll watch Bachelorette with you, but really deep inside. Wait, you told me one time. Doesn't your wife have bachelorette parties and you go with 7 or 8 other women?
No, that's not me.
That is you.
Not a chance.
Pick and pool.
Shark
for the Bachelor.
I would love a pool. That would be good.
Yeah, actually, we should. You know what? Chris Abbott from OddsShark, if you're watching this at any point, message me and let's figure out what we can do with the Bachelorette or Bachelor. I didn't watch this season. Usually I get sucked into Bachelor in Paradise.
Oh, it was great.
Was it good this year?
Well, I look so good compared to those catastrophes.
They are messes. This is the first year I haven't watched Bachelor in Paradise in 6 years. I know I've
never
sad.
watched. I just have no desire.
But with the wife thing, I just over the because I do all the self promotion, trying to get everyone to, and you send out emails and texts and stuff. And my wife comes up to me the other night. And she goes, why haven't you sent me a notification for the podcast? And I look at her, well, what are you talking about? You've sent it to everyone. Everyone's telling me you send them these things. You don't send it to me. And then I go, well, honey, you never listen to me anyway. And then she goes, no, I would rather have it because then I can just pause you.
So when you're talking, she would have clicked pause.
She would have hit pause a long time ago.
Yeah, no, I like it. My wife... I'm busy. I got lots of stuff on the go right now with football and stuff. So she's like, you need to get all. First of all, she said, put it all in your phone and we can share a calendar. And I was like, that seems like a hassle. So I went to Staples because I've got this weird Staples fetish. I love going into Staples and just walking around and looking at supplies and computers and stuff. So anyway, I went in there and I bought a calendar. And then I took through the calendar. I went through September, October, November. laid it all out for us. Like, we're doing the podcast these days. I'm doing this stream this day. I'm out of town this weekend. Laid it all out for her. Today she texted me at 10 o'clock, was like, hey, can you pick Marshall up at 11? I was like, no, I can't. I put it in the calendar. Like, you need to understand what's happening here. But she has actually listened to the podcast, which not all of one. I mean, why would you listen to an entire one? But you know what? A little bit of support is nice. A little bit of support is nice.
Does she listen to you a lot?
Shout out to our wives. Well, she listens to the radio show.
Yeah.
Because my kids like listening to me.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for that, like kids like listening to Daddy on the radio, but if it wasn't for that, I don't know if she'd listen. I really don't. She's not, I mean, she's kind of a sports fan, but when I do, like, I don't know how it is with you guys. Like, I watch a ton of sports. My wife used to be a sports fan when we first started dating, and now it's like, it's work for me, so she like kind of despises it because I'm always watching.
Yeah, no, my wife hates sports. I turned on a hockey game the other day, and she knows it's preseason, and it doesn't really matter. And like, it was on for 2 seconds. She goes, "Nope,
just not gonna happen."
Nope.
Cass, is your wife a sports fan?
She's a sports fan.
Okay,
I mean,
that's good.
She's a Texan. So
that's right.
Little story about her. The first time. So when I was playing in the minors, like, we just started dating, and the first game, like, I invited her to. She went to the local practice rink that seats like 50 people.
She thought you were playing like
she
a
thought
rec
we were
league
playing.
game?
She's like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. No one watches hockey. It's Texas, right down in Houston. She's like, no one watches hockey. So she went like to our practice rink that seats 50 people. Like, had her friend Sophia.
Brought a friend with
her, and they were like, no cars in the parking lot. They walk in, so they're just like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, no one watches hockey, so why would there be any cars here? They walk in and nothing's happening in the rink because it's a practice rink, and so there's like this skate shop attendant or whatever, and they're like, excuse me, like, do the Arrows play today? And then the guy just kind of looked at her. She's like, do they play here? And he's like, they play at the Toyota Center downtown, like where the Houston Rockets play. That seats like 20,000 people.
Oh,
so she was like, oh, and then like hopped in the car and they got there.
So they made
it? They got there like, she didn't tell me this for months after. They got there like right before the end of the second period. And I ended up getting first star that game too. So she was just like, who is this guy? Like, people watch hockey and he's doing this. So it was kind of funny, but she still does, like, she likes football. She was Texas Tech. Like, that was her school.
Okay, so like she still has hard ties.
Yeah, still some ties to Texas Tech. And we've got friends that are involved at UT as well, so we'll watch some college football sometimes.
Yeah.
And, so she likes it. She doesn't probably football more than some of the other sports, but she'll watch it with me.
Yeah. The only part of that story I don't quite buy into is your whole first star that night. Like,
I got first star.
What did you do?
I don't even remember.
Gordie Howe hat trick?
Probably something. I mean,
did you ever have a Gordie Howe hat trick? You must have somewhere along the way, right?
Gordie Howe hat trick.
Junior for sure.
Oh, junior.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever had one in pro. I just always never understood why they're called Gordie Howe hat tricks, because he had like
I think he had one or
like
something
one
like, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Gordie Howe didn't have many Gordie Howe.
Oh.
Which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah, it's a little surprising. Yeah, somebody obviously just was a big fan of him and decided to give him the name. All right, so if you're watching on any of our Facebook streams, you can comment. We'll try to get to a few of those. Hernan in the corner. We'll keep tabs on that. The big news that broke today was Brayden Point signing a 3-year bridge deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Comes in at $6.75 million per, which I think is a really good number for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Cass, let's start with you. I mean, I don't want to say too good to be true, but this is a pretty good deal for the Lightning.
Absolutely. I thought they were way farther apart than that. So I mean, on the podcast the other day, I was completely wrong, because I was like, well, if anyone is going to take a long time to sign, Laine was the easy answer that you guys picked. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go out there a little bit. And I thought he was going to take a lot longer to sign. Clearly, he did not. I thought the number was going to be, for him, I thought it was going to be closer to 8 for the same length.
Even for a 3-year deal.
Even for a 3-year deal. I was like, that's probably going to be closer to 8. And that's what I thought he was asking for. So I was a little surprised by it. I think that's a great deal for Tampa. I mean, that buys them some time from a cap space standpoint. Like, that's a really good deal for them.
Yeah, they got some big money. I think Vasilevsky's contract kicks in next season as well. So this is a pretty manageable number. Yeah. And what it does here is Point buys in to giving you a window here to go for it, doesn't he, Gager?
Oh, yeah. That solidifies them to have another great regular season. I mean, at what point it doesn't you want to get to the playoffs. I'm sure they just would rather start the playoffs right now, just instead of going through that 82 game and just I bet against Tampa right away, just because no adversity the whole year. Like everything just fell right into place for him. I always think you need a little bit of mud on your face because when playoffs is such a different type of animal where the ups and downs and how you deal with it. It's nice to have a little bit of adversity through the year to get you through those tough times.
Cass, do you think? I think Gage is right. You need some adversity along the way. Is what happened in the playoffs last year enough adversity for that, or do you think you have to kind of like if they cruise through the regular season again and have one of the they had one of the best regular seasons of all time? So if they do that again, are we going to get into the playoffs next year and be like, well, we'll see how it goes, or if they go through some stuff, if they like Stamkos misses 40 games, or they dealt with something along the way, do you think that'll help again, or do you think they could just learn from what they dealt with last year?
I think they need to have some adversity
throughout the season.
I'm having adversity getting that word out. Yeah. That's my adversity. That's why we're getting better as a podcast. My adversity is words. Yeah, words are so hard. I think they need some adversity. Like I don't see them having they're going to have a really good season. Wouldn't surprise if they end up with the most points in the league. But I don't think it will be as smooth sailing as last year. And I think for them that'll be a good thing. And I think when you combine that with the way that it ended in playoffs for them last year, they'll be a little bit better prepared for that. And even just from an intensity uptick, I think they'll be more prepared on an emotional level to deal with it heading into the playoffs and won't be just reeling it on their heels. So I think they'll be a little better suited. But I agree with you, Gage. Like, if they could just be like, let's just fast forward and skip these games and just jump right into playoffs, let's go.
Because I remember I think they lost the first game against Columbus.
They got swept.
They got swept. Yeah. So, and on social media, the guys in Tampa were burning jerseys on their outdoor barbecues.
After the
first game of the playoffs. And then I think after the second game, Kucherov did an interview, and they were kind of all over him, and he had a little bit more media was covering it now, I think, compared to normally, and there was more focus on them because they were such a favorite to win it. And Kucherov just had poopy pants talking to this guy. He was so just out of sorts and hated the questions, and I go, oh God, they're unraveling in the pressers. Like if they're doing that early off the ice, then when things go bad on the ice, they just weren't used to it. I mean, I think you can grab a little bit of that experience and bring it into the next year, but you forget a lot from year to year, I think.
Unless you get punched in the face right away again in game one, in game one, you're like, hey, damn it, we can't have this happen again.
Can you imagine if that happened, though?
Well,
I think that would be the worst thing possible. Like, if they lost that first game.
Because then people start
asking. And the doubts will creep in. It's almost like they need to win, just even if it's like close, even if it's overtime, whatever. It's like, just win that first game heading into the playoffs, and then it's like, I feel that they would be okay. But it's like, if they lose that first game and it's against a decent team.
Yeah.
Especially a team that maybe plays like a more physical, lockdown, defensive style of game, then
that's trouble.
It could go sideways quick.
Well, here, let's say I've got, according to our friends at dailyfaceoff.com, this is what the Tampa Bay lineup could kind of look like this year. You got Stamkos, Kucherov, and Andre Palat, Brayden Point, Tyler Johnson, Yanni Gourde, Anthony Cirelli, who had a nice rookie season with Alex Killorn and Matthew Joseph, another younger guy. Then Cedric Paquette, Danik Martel, and Patrick Maroon on the right side. And we wanted to talk about Maroon today anyway, so we'll get to that in a second. Hedman, Shattenkirk, Ryan McDonough, Eric Cernak, Colburn, and Sergachev, who's still got quite a bit of upside, in my opinion. The one guy that we were going to talk about because of something he did in a fight last night was Maroon. Let's start there, and we'll talk about what he might mean to this team. Gager, what do you think? So Maroon's fighting Watson last night, Nashville, Tampa, preseason action. Maroon skating by the Nashville bench. They must have been, I would think, well, Cass, would they be chirping in that situation? And then
no, they would just be like, hey, man, good to see you.
No, but would they just shut up, or would you, like, somebody's always beaking at him when he's going by?
There's always, and you would have seen this, Gager, there's always someone saying something.
Oh, yeah.
So every time somebody is saying something. Every time someone skates in front of the bench, somebody's saying something. And sometimes it's not even like you're not even trying to make fun of the guy. You're just trying to make your buddies laugh. Like, especially in preseason.
Well, how much did he sign for?
It was a good deal again. Yeah. I'll look that up too. But
I think probably someone shouted out, "Hey, a couple more cups and maybe you'll break the $2 million mark, right?"
Get paid again.
Two more cups and you
But
can.
it'd be like the backup goalie. That's
Maroon got
just-
900K.
Yeah, so
like that,
almost got that $100
Yeah.
You'll break $1 million soon, buddy. And then he's like, then he'll show the ring or whatever.
But like as far as Maroon goes, like is that a really good pickup for Tampa because of the need for a guy like that? I know he's not going to make a huge impact during the season and score 27 like he did playing with McDavid, and he's going to be in a bottom six role. Maybe he gets thrown around the net on a second unit power play because he's a big guy, but he just won a cup. He plays a big, hard style. Like, do you think that helps Tampa? Like, is that like a bigger impact than a $900,000 Pat Maroon would be maybe in some other places?
He's a good guy to have. I remember just a little story about what a good guy he seems to be. He's one of those guys where I met him really briefly at the last game at Rexall, and it was like he seemed like he was the most fun in that locker room. Like he had the tunes blaring, kicking over garbage cans, and then he would pick up all the garbage again. It was a really funny joke, and he had his arm around everybody and singing songs. He's I think a real glue guy and a guy that'll do anything for his teammates. And that was one of the big things I think they were missing in that first round last year for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Those guys are important, right? Like,
oh, absolutely. I don't know. I look at it from a different angle and not like, oh, is he a glue guy in the dressing room? I think they have enough of those guys in Tampa already. Like, it's not like they lacked chemistry as a team or they lack glue. What he brings is a different type of response to your team when things don't go as planned. So when things go sideways, he can respond in a way that's different than most. So he's going to go and punch someone in the mouth. He's going to go try to run someone over. He's going to go, turn it, escalate the emotion. And I think like for Tampa, if I look at their team, they're constructed so well and they have so much skill that the one thing that they lack is they lack the ability to diversify the emotion inside their games.
Jesus. Yeah.
It's a big word.
Yeah,
Those words I've improved, yeah. We're getting better.
Yeah, I was just going to say maybe not glue, maybe he's a type of epoxy. Clear epoxy.
Yeah. No, I just think he's the type of guy that he allows your team to respond in a different emotional way than just guys that are going to go and be skill players and score goals.
And just respond with scoring more goals than the other team. It's nice to have because you're not going to win every game, but sometimes going and punching someone in the mouth is great.
so yeah, so I was going to say if you're down 2-0 in game 1 of the playoffs next year, and he can go out there and fight somebody and try to change your momentum, then maybe that's something you didn't have.
Even just an emotional. I mean, you don't even need to fight anyone anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like you're trying to pick a fight, but you're doing it right in front of the benches, right?
Yeah.
Or you're grabbing a guy, you're pushing him in the bench, so you're in front of the other team's bench, and you're grabbing a guy, face washing him, like starting a scrum right in front of their bench, like where you heighten the emotion, right? Because for a team like Tampa, when you're not playing well, your solution is, well, we're going to get a power play, we're going to score, and then we're going to play well. But it's not, I don't think, quite as simple in the playoffs because those swings don't have as much of an impact as they do during the regular season. Like the other team's going to be locked down so tightly defensively, typically, that it's not going to have as much of an impact. So you need to find a way emotionally to cross that. Here we go again. We suck. We're going to lose. To how are we going to have an impact? And I just don't think they had players that were able to do that last year. And I think Maroon gives them at least the option of somebody going out and doing that.
Imagine being those guys in this offseason.
Oh.
Right? You roll through the regular season, swept aside. I mean, like an all-time, not all-time collapse, but an all-time regular season followed up by no success at all in the playoffs. Like any offseason, if you don't win it all, I guess probably has to suck, but that one's got to be one of the worst.
It happens so fast too. Like the
it was
games
like
just go boom, boom,
7
boom.
days, you're done.
And you're like, what just happened? Their heads were probably spinning. Like, how are we done? This is ridiculous.
We are going to dive into the Oilers and Flames, flipping some parts around here this offseason, but I want to stick to this question just to wrap up with Tampa because of the point. I guess a couple of angles on point still, but the one, and Gage and I were talking about this right before we went on the air. And so, Cass, I'll throw it to you first. Why are these young guys so much more important to these teams now? Like, all these guys are waiting out their RFAs because they're putting up like 90 points on their entry level deal. Like these, and they're not all McDavid caliber players, but they're making significant impacts at a really young age, which I think is relatively new outside of the Crosbys and the McDavid type of guys? Do you think that's the way guys are being trained now, or do you think coaches are more willing to give these guys opportunity, or they just have younger Like, what do you think the reason is?
Collective bargaining agreement.
Oh, the old CBA guy coming back out here.
No, it does. It has a significant impact
because they're making no money. You want to
teams have got to lock guys in, and for the players from the standpoint, there's such a high turnover rate now that like of players in the league and new players coming in, like that has just increased. Where it's so cheap for teams to bring a young guy in on an entry level deal, have him for his entry level deal, and then if he hasn't turned into one of those RFAs, it's going to be able to hold out for a significant amount of money. Yeah. They just bring in another one and rinse and repeat.
Well, so instead of paying that guy 2.5 for something that a young kid could do.
Yeah. So that's where you're seeing these guys that are having some success and having success early to get these big contracts and push for it, because it's like you don't know for them if you're going to get another one. And yes, in some instances like Point here, you're going to have a bridge deal, but it's still a bridge deal that's going to pay. And it's like, well, make hay while the sun shines, and more power to him for that. But I honestly think that's the big part of it. And you can probably make an argument as to whether that's right or wrong from a team success standpoint. From a is this how you build a team now to actually have success? I mean, if you look at a team like St. Louis versus a team like Tampa, they're constructed quite differently.
Yeah, it's true.
With those guys that'll be on those RFA bridge or big young contracts. Is it from an experience standpoint and a playoff standpoint, is it going to actually benefit you or not?
Yeah, I'm trying to think on that St. Louis team last year, guys who would have been on entry level deals, and Robert Thomas chipped in a little bit as a rookie, but outside of that, you're right. That's a lot of yeah. That's a good point actually. Yeah, that is a good point. Gage, you think they're just training a lot better too? Part of it at least?
I think that's a lot to do with it. Watching junior games from when I played to now, our fourth line, half of them couldn't stand up, and now the training's different. Down in the minors, I think it's not as it's more focused on what the big club is doing, how they incorporate their systems to hopefully plug and play when they do get called up, and just an overall attitude with young players. They're so confident now in their abilities to when they get their chance, they know that their window is small, and a lot of them have the mental prowess to know I gotta perform, and this is my shot. When I came into the NHL, I was more in awe of everything, just a big deer in the headlights. I think a lot of these guys are. I mean, you're arrogant as a hockey player. You have to be to a certain extent, and when they're there, that's where they're supposed to be, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Right?
Okay, as far as the last point followed here that I want to get to is we've seen Marner sign. He got his deal. We saw Aho sign that entry-level contract, which was the max term. Now we see this bridge deal of Point at 6.75 for the Kachucks, for the Rantanens, for the Connors and the Line A's. Do you think this speeds things up now? They've got the mark on a 6-year deal for Marner, the mark on an 8-year deal for Aho, and the mark on a 3-year deal for Point. I would have to think it starts to fall in line now.
It's kind of all over the map, though, really, with these these terms and stuff. It's weird. I would have thought that Point would have gotten longer term.
A longer term, yeah.
Yeah. So
he's in a good spot because he's going to be 6 years into the league and sign a monstrous deal. Because if they sign him, they're going to be buying all UFA years, basically, right? Yeah. So he's going to cash in huge in 3 years, and the CBA might even be more beneficial for him then because they're hoping for a big influx of American TV money. I think by then, I think that's what they're talking about. So we'll see what happens. But Cass, do you think if you're Mikko Rantanen right now, do you go, okay, well now that we know what these terms are, I'll take a 3-year bridge at $7 million or something. You know what I mean?
Close. It may speed it up a little bit. Line A, I don't know if it'll speed that one up.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But Connor, same. Well, I guess Connor. Do you think Connor's a comparable?
He's got 34 goals in back-to-back years, but Point was 90-some points this year.
Yeah, but
that's Connor played on that top line in Winnipeg and scored goals, but he didn't put up huge points like some of these other. Rantanen and Point were 90-plus guys. So, for Connor, I think Connor's waiting to see what they pay Line A. So you can be well, I scored back-to-back 30-goal seasons, and I had more goals than him last year, so I want.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if it pushes anything else into place.
You think we still wait? We'll just sit here and wait?
I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll keep. I mean, who knows? Maybe things start to break even while we're doing the podcast today. Gage, I don't want to put you in a tough spot, but I'm going to.
Might as well.
But I will.
Sport Clips. The experience redefines men's haircuts. And I figure since, the obvious, if one of Cass or I had to be like a spokesperson for Sport Clips.
Oh, geez.
Who do you think would be better at it?
Oh, that's tough.
Like, it's not just about the hair, right? Like Cass has better hair than me. I'll admit
Cass,
to that.
you do have good hair.
I know.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. There's a little bit of envy there.
Conceited bastard.
But you know what? When I like heard you were going to the Spengler and I threw it on and saw your mug on
cleaned
there,
up, right?
I was like, who is the good-looking guy in Switzerland right now?
Thank you very much.
You've got really good TV hair, way better than Rashog's. Actually.
Whoa,
Yeah,
careful. Let's make sure that doesn't get back to him. Okay, so who would you pick then?
Well, I haven't seen Cass on TV so much, really, and
I don't got the face for it, Gage.
but
Either do I.
I'd have to go with you, Dusty, just with your TV hair presence.
Wow.
And seeing it on because I've been at 6 a.m. on your show.
Yeah.
And I've seen what you can look like. And the metamorphosis that happens.
It changes a lot throughout the day, right?
I will say, I will concede this.
Okay.
I will concede
well, thank you.
You were doing a lot with a little.
You're not wrong.
So that's where I'm like, okay, you know what? I could see it. Yeah.
Maybe that's
I get it.
You get it?
I get it.
Okay.
You know what?
I'm not serious.
No, it's a really nice thing of you to say. It's one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me. I have basically had the same haircut since I was 6 years old. So there has not been except with the exception of the weekend we graduated from broadcast school at Lethbridge Community College. We got drunk the Friday before grad and dyed our hair like beach blonde, like Eminem, like bleached it blonde, which was not a good look. My grandpa was kind of old school, came to grad and was like, "What the hell did you do to your hair?" So that's as adventurous. I was like, "You guys ever done anything crazy?" Like
I dyed my hair blonde when I played in Sweden.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Oh, that must have been a great look.
Yeah. I'll bring the picture in. You can probably call it up. It's pretty solid, actually.
Oh, that's good. What about you, Cass? You heard anything crazy?
Yeah, grade 7, I had the old Jonathan Taylor Thomas part down the middle.
Oh, no way.
Bleached.
Oh, that's a good picture.
Bleached, so it's like the top halves are like bleached.
Perfect.
And then I did red. I thought it was cool to do red. I was like, I did blonde, and then grade 8, I dyed it red.
Same haircut, same cut?
Haircut.
But like, red. What type of red? Like bright red?
Like a dark, bright.
Really?
My school wasn't allowed. Like you weren't allowed to have like bright reds or greens or anything.
So you went like a darker.
So I went like a darker red, so I could be like.
You tried to look like a natural red. You were pretending to be a ginger, like
trying to be a ginger.
Yeah,
but that was before I knew anything about gingers. Really. Truly.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're not up to speed on the ginger lifestyle probably until you're like an adult, 18 years old.
I've learned later.
Yeah.
I'm married to one.
You married a ginger?
Oh, yeah.
I dated a ginger for 3 years on and off, and I thought she was going to kill me.
Oh,
I swear to God, that's the truth.
I'm scared for my life week to week.
Week to week, you never know what's going to happen. All right, so that's Sport Clips. I am now your official spokesperson for the podcast. Sport Clips look great, like me. How's that sound? I think that sounds good. Now go visit the one in Ellerslie here in Edmonton, first location in Edmonton. All right, so I said we were going to dive into the Flames and Oilers thing, and that's what we're going to do now. We've still got about half an hour to get into a couple other things we might hit on a little bit later on, and we'll definitely get to our Popeyes chicken poll question, which will come up. It's kind of tied into the Oilers and Flames scenario. But Cass, let's start with you. Your thoughts. These two teams, the Lucic Neal trade happened, and then free agent wise, Mike Smith leaves Calgary, comes up to Edmonton. Cam Talbot ends up signing with the Calgary Flames, so they've kind of flipped the goaltender position in different roles. I think Talbot might be more of a backup down there than Smith will be here in Edmonton. But do you like the flip for both teams? Do you like it more for one or the other, or how do you see this working?
Edmonton. Yeah, I mean, it was the first trade when I looked at the trade in a long time for the Edmonton Oilers, where I looked at it and I went, they won that trade. Like first,
right away.
Very first, first opinion, just reading, first time reading it, seeing what was moved, and I was like, they won that trade. They won that trade. And I think the reason they won it is Neal had an extremely off year, and even if he rebounds to half of what he was doing before that, from a point production standpoint, I think you're going to be in a better place. If you look shooting percentage, he was down. Playing time, he was down. Wasn't given a lot of opportunity. By all accounts, had some conflict with the coaching staff in Calgary. So it's just, I think overall they win on that. And then the Smith and Talbot going into a backup role, he's going to be most likely a good backup for them. Like that's a good pickup for Calgary to have at the backup. And Smith, we'll have to see still. Haven't even got a chance to see him really this year that much. And so it's like, well, we'll see how he pans out for the Oilers. But I just think overall, if Smith comes in and if he's able to play 35 games and he plays well, or 40 games, or even if he takes on the full-time starter role, whatever the case ends up being, I think overall, out of those, if you're looking specifically at those players and the moves made, like the swap of guys, Edmonton's further ahead.
Gage, does it make any sense for Calgary, bringing in Lucic as opposed to Neal?
I think it makes sense for Calgary because Lucic is maybe not the player that they want, but it's the player that they need in a way. Like they need him to be Lucic, physical, banging, engaged. I think Talbot is a better technical goalie than both Mikko and
that's a good way to look at it.
So if he can get the decor is going to help Talbot's game a lot, I think, and if he can get his game and his confidence back more than anything else, but technically I think he's a much better goalie than what we have here. They're all good, but I think he is capable of making more saves where he's relied just on his abilities and just being technically sound. Like we'll see Mike Smith play, and he's a little bit more sporadic and does a few acrobatic things. A lot of times might end up on his stomach a little bit, but he's been in the league for a long time, and it seems to be working for him. So.
Which I think definitely will help with Kassian as well, having a guy like Smith around a little bit. One of the things that Gager said when it comes to Lucic is, that physical presence and being able to play the way that he does when he's going. Cass, do you think he served that purpose here in Edmonton? Did you get the sense that, outside of the goals alone, can you still make an impact in the league playing the way that Lucic plays? Do you think that's still a thing?
I think you can, but I think you have to be emotionally invested in the game.
Okay,
to do so. And that's not always, it's not easy. It's not easy to be emotionally invested in that style of game and that type of game. But I think you can. Again, to go to St. Louis is you look at their team. They had guys that played that game that didn't score a ton of goals, but they went out and they played a physical game. And if you look at Boston, they had guys that went out and they still played that physical game, and they didn't score a ton of goals, but they were able to contribute on the emotional level. They're able to contribute on the physical level. And I think that still is something that's important. It's not as important as it used to be, but it's still something that's there. So it's if he's emotionally engaged consistently, I think it can have an impact.
He's going, when he came here, Lucic came here, he was here to score goals.
He was supposed to be McDavid's ideal winger, right? Everybody was looking at the clip of McDavid when he was 13 and was like, I think Milan Lucic would be good on my wing, young McDavid at the time. That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think he's going to Calgary to score goals. He's going there in a completely different role. And I think he was just chasing the role that he was brought here to do, which he wasn't capable of doing anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
miscast.
Yeah, I think so. Neal's when we see Neal here, what are we looking at? We're looking for a guy who's going to put 20 goals.
20 goals on the second line. That's what they're hoping.
That's what we're looking for. So completely different role change. So we'll see how it works out.
Okay, well, let's look at it from what the teams are probably thinking. Cass, for the Oilers, their goal here is to make the playoffs. James Neal and Mike Smith, do they help them get closer to making it? It's not going to all be on them, but do you think those guys, can Neal score 20 and can Mike Smith start 45 games for you?
I think so. The question is just not Mike Smith, but it's Koskinen.
Yeah.
And is a tandem, not just Mike Smith by himself, but it's Smith and Koskinen. What are they going to be able to do? I think James Neal helps them make the playoffs. I'm not saying they will make the playoffs. I'm saying he's going to help for the case. I do think he's a better fit for that, scoring 20 goals, and the likelihood of him doing that is much higher than it would be if Lucic was still here. in my opinion, how it's going to be.
Based on their skills
based
alone.
on their skills alone, based on their style of play alone, based on just what they're capable of doing and what their skill sets are.
Okay, so what about the Flames then? Because the Flames they had a great season last year. So their goal, what they're trying to get here, Gager, is through the first round, like have some playoff success. Can Lucic and Talbot help them get there, do you think?
Yeah, and again, like we talked about with Maroon's impact in a playoff series. When the Oilers were in the playoffs, like Luch did have some games where he was a much bigger factor in those head-to-head matchups, playing the same team night after night after night. Right? You'd see some players going, "Oh, I don't want to go up against this guy again." As for their goaltending, well, you just hope that if Talbot can replicate anything close to what Smith did last year, right? Like Smith was their best player in the playoffs. He was the only reason they lasted as long as they did. So,
and it wasn't very long, but he kept them in there. Yeah.
No, I mean, if we can get that type, make the playoffs and get that type of goaltending, and that might work out well.
Let's bring up your Popeyes chicken poll question. Try Popeyes legendary Louisiana chicken. Today we're going to talk about some plans that we might have with Popeyes here in a little bit as well, which I think is a great idea. Hernan in the corner. You posted this on Twitter as well. And the poll question is, which duo will help more? Neal and Smith or Lucic and Talbot? Shout out to Tobias Reeder, who looks like he might make the Flames after not scoring. Yeah, man. Yeah, they've got like 5 guys in camp on a PTO. And I was looking online and some Flames guys last night. They were saying if anybody's going to make it, they think Tobias Reeder might actually find a place in that team. It was Jermaine Franklin, who we were hoping to have on today. He's like, he skates so well. I was just like, wow, this is happening.
Just wait, that's all that's happening.
Yeah, wow. I thought Reeder was going to be good with the Oilers last year too, and it just didn't happen. I mean, there's being snake bitten. And then there's being like completely demolished by a boa constrictor. And that's what happened. Like he was fighting his way out of the belly of a snake all year long. Hernan, what do we have for results on the Twitter poll?
Yeah, this one's one-sided. After 232 votes, which duo will help more? Lucic Talbot at 6%, Neal and Smith at 94.
So still more goals than Lucic scored last year. Ouch. Okay, well, but Cass, you were like, it's got to be the Oilers. Does that surprise you a little bit? Like,
well,
94?
I mean, we are in Edmonton.
Yeah, that's true.
We
and
probably are starting with more of an Edmonton listening base.
True.
And so I think that probably favors more towards that.
I would think it's closer
people
than
are
that,
still People are still upset. So I think it's going to be closer than that. Like, yeah. But honestly, as I said, I would much rather have Neal or Smith. Neal and Smith.
Me too.
And I think most people would probably flavor towards that. Unless you're a Calgary fan.
Just going on the previous year,
and that's, I mean, we all know about Calgary fans.
Careful what you say. Okay, so here's the other thing that we're going to discuss with Popeyes. It was Cass who first came up with this idea. Now, were you just sitting around one day and you're like, hey, let's put as much Popeyes as we can in our mouth and try to talk?
Popped into my head. I don't even know how it was like a epiphany. And it was just like, oh, that'd be really funny. Like, that'd be funny to do. And so I was like, oh, that'd be a funny shtick. Like if we had like chicken sandwiches or something like that. And we had to like try to talk, like say things or like pronounce like Russian names, like stuff that would be really hard to, but we couldn't chew. It's like you got to put it in your mouth and you got to try to talk with all the food in your mouth.
You can't even chew it?
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I guess we have to talk about the rules. So.
Spit guards come in.
That's right. Back to spit guards.
Spit sleeve.
Episode 2.
Spit socks.
Spit socks.
Yeah, episode 2. Yeah, you have to go back and listen.
So you want us on the podcast to talk with our mouth, chew with our mouth open, and
try to say like difficult things.
Okay, so then do we try to guess which name you're saying?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that could work. I was thinking we could like just pull names out of a hat, and then you just have to try to say that
listen,
name.
This was idea number 1. Like, not idea number 1, but it was like this was stage 1 of the idea.
It's the early stages of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, we could develop this over time, and it could be something that could be interesting. Like we could do if we have any guests in studio, like that become a mandatory part of having guests in studio.
First of all, you have to take this bite of chicken and say Vasilevsky.
And yeah,
same sort of thing.
We can all laugh at you. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You sucker. First of all, I love the fact that you think we're ever going to have a guest in studio.
We're going to have a guest in studio.
We will get one at some point. I also feel like this is just your way to justify eating more Popeyes chicken. Like, right?
Maybe.
That's kind of what I think. Gager, what about you, buddy?
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Those sandwiches are great.
You're totally on board with this. They are good. All right, so that's the plan here. Maybe by Thursday. I mean, this is something that we're still obviously going to discuss, but I agree with you. I think it's fun, and I will say this: I do not eat enough Popeyes chicken. So if I can justify it in any way, it's for the podcast.
Yeah,
like let's just relax.
Research.
You know, we could get people to send us ideas for that kind of stuff. Too.
Yeah, ways we can use
Yeah.
Popeyes chicken.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, fun ways to incorporate.
Yeah, so if you're listening to the podcast,
You got it.
you can tweet us. Also, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching the live stream, you can comment as well. Or if you see any of us in public at any time, or if you're Kassian's mom and she comes up with a really good idea, then just pass it along, right? Like
soundproofing the room.
yes.
exactly.
We should soundproof the room with Popeyes chicken, or at least have a Popeyes chicken party for everybody who comes in and helps soundproof the room. That would be not a bad idea. All right, so let's stick with the Flames and the Oilers, kind of, and take a look. We'll flip over here to Oddshark, who is the presenting sponsor of Two Guys and a Goalie podcast. I was on there today, got a good look at the Pacific Division and the odds to win the Pacific Division. Okay, not odds to win the Stanley Cup or anything like that, but odds to win the Pacific Division. And right now, Vegas is the favorite to win the Pacific Division at plus 165. Calgary, number 2, at plus 275. And San Jose, third right now, the third best odds to win the Pacific at plus 375. Once again, you can find all these odds and all the information on betting, and they'll put you in the right direction at Oddshark. Here's my question for you.
Oh, geez.
Both of you. Outside, because look, it seems like every single year in every single division, a team that was predicted to finish outside the top 3 ends up finishing inside the top 3. So outside of Vegas, Calgary, and San Jose, which other team in that division do you think could finish in the top 3? Cass, what do you got?
That's a tough one.
But it's the same thing. You look at it and you go, "Oh, well, that's the top 3." There,
yeah,
right there.
It's clearly the top 3.
But is it? I've got one.
I if I'm going with someone, I might go with Arizona.
Okay.
I might go with Arizona, and I likelihood of that I think is probably going to be pretty low. That they I think those top 3, those top 3 could finish in any order. To be honest, I could see them finishing in any order of the 3.
But you like them all in the top 3.
I like them all in the top 3. If there is someone that's going to slip in there that may surprise some people, I might go Arizona, and that's if a lot pans out with their young guys. Like if everything goes right with their young players.
And they do got some pretty good talented young players.
Yeah,
like
if
you're thinking, like if Clayton Keller has this 80-point season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gager, who would you go with in that group? You gonna say Arizona as well?
No.
Okay.
Well, just from watching a few preseason games and seeing their back end and their goaltending, I liked the way the Canucks looked. Like they
really,
yeah, they had some speed, and you know when
added Myers,
like they're good, they're pretty solid on the back end. So the one thing that preseason always teaches young players when they come in is when you play against NHLers, you might be able to stack up, but if you give them a chance, they usually take advantage of it. And that's the difference between the minors and the NHL. And I think the Oilers played them pretty good. And of course, Vancouver had a more veteran lineup in, but they're stars, and I know it's preseason or whatever, but when they had a chance, they took advantage of it.
Elias Pettersson.
And they got the Bozer back.
Brock Besser,
Besser, and what's the Horvath?
Horvath's
great.
good, yeah.
So I really Don Cherry'd all those names. Didn't I?
That's all right. That's why we needed chicken. Is like so we can do it even worse.
Yeah. This just in for those of you.
Did we just have chicken?
Yeah, those of you who aren't watching the live stream right now and are only listening to the podcast, Gager said all those names with a biscuit in his mouth.
So yeah, I'll get those down by next. All
right,
but
so
I thought about Vancouver about saying
you
Vancouver.
did, You did.
I thought about it. Then I'm like, I don't like Canucks fans typically, so I'm just not going to go there.
I'm from there though. Yeah,
You're a West Coast guy.
It was tough the streets of Kitsilano are a tough place to grow up.
This is you guys took
the mean streets.
the mean streets of Kitsilano.
Yeah.
Trouble.
It doesn't sound like it, eh? No.
No.
I was gonna say Arizona. Cass took them. I don't think I was going to say the Canucks even as a backup. I'm definitely not going with the Kings. Oh, man.
You're going to do it.
I can't be the guy in Edmonton doing a podcast.
You can take Arizona too. It's
Why don't
okay.
you go with the Ducks?
Well, I was
man.
thinking
They got
about the Ducks. I like the goal. I know.
That's not going to happen.
Why
though.
not? Because
It's
the
not
Dallas
gonna
Aikens?
happen.
Dallas.
The Swarm.
Yeah, if they swarm, John Gibson might be screwed. Okay, no, I do like Edmonton better than LA and Anaheim this year, but I'm with you. I'm going to go Arizona. I was thinking that last year might be the year for Arizona. I think a lot of people were kind of like, hey, Arizona with Antti Ranta, and then Ranta ended up getting hurt, so I was tempted to say Edmonton, but I just need to see what Tippett brings to the table first, I think. But yeah, you can find odds for all of the divisions, and we'll have Chris Abbott from Oddshark on the podcast again on Thursday. Maybe we'll dive into some of these Pacific division and the other division odds that we'll get to. A couple other things that I wanted to get to. Eric Gryba retiring. Cass, you played with Gryba. I have the best memory I have of Gryba being a Habs fan, watching him almost kill Lars Eller at the blue line. Like, I could not believe that hit. He blew him up.
I still think it was a clean hit.
No, but he blew him up.
That was,
Like,
it was unbelievable, and I loved it because it meant I got to play. It was like
so you're like drawn in.
Yeah, we were not allowed to walk back to the hotel after that. It was like, take a taxi, ride in the bus because you might get stabbed.
Seriously.
Yeah, and I kind of, because we're tall, we were roommates,
Yeah.
we were tall, and we both had like beards coming in. So
Yeah.
they're like, you especially, because you kind of look like Gryba,
Yeah.
so you might get knifed. So no walking back to the hotel. Hop in the cab, get in the bus.
Seriously.
Yeah, well, it was like vicious. I mean, that whole series got vicious.
Well, it
after
was a
that.
wild series.
Like that was
after
like
that.
we had. I mean, Prust was calling like Paul McLean like a fat bug.
Yeah, fat walrus. Fat walrus.
No, fat bug-eyed
But
walrus.
That
yeah.
was that series. That's right.
That was that
Oh,
series. It was an
yeah.
awesome
A
series.
fat
That was
bug-eyed
I tell a
walrus.
story. That was that was only the second time ever in my hockey career that I tried to choke someone unconscious on the ice.
Okay, who was it?
That was Armstrong.
Colby Armstrong?
Yeah. Really? I tried to choke him out.
Choke him out?
Yeah, we had that line brawl, and I tried to put him in a guillotine chokehold. It's like we got piled on by like Moen, I think. So it was like Moen and Chris Neal grabbed Moen, and then the linesman grabbed them, and we all went down in a heap. And so I was trying to. I'm like, I can't hit this guy, so I'm going to try to leave him unconscious on the ice. So I put him in a guillotine chokehold.
Oh man!
No, that was.
I gotta track that down. I gotta track that down.
Just look. Just Senators Montreal Brawl. Like in the
All right.
playoffs.
And you can probably
find
find it on hockeyfights.com.
Yeah, certainly you
with
can.
us
Yeah.
here at the Nation Network.
But that was. I mean, we had an absolute blast. And
Did it start with that hit? Was that the one that really turned it? Or was it already nasty?
That just made the series nasty.
Okay,
but
yeah.
the problem was that we were way more equipped to have a nasty series.
You
than
guys were
Montreal
ready
was.
for that, yeah.
Like, so that in that brawl, for example,
Yeah.
like this is. Tell me if you think, like, if you're on the other team, if you're Montreal, like, you knowing who Montreal has for players.
Yeah.
If you tell me if you think, like, I think I'm going to start a line brawl with these guys. If you think this was a good idea. So we had Zach Smith, center.
Yeah.
We had Chris Neal, right wing. We had me on the left wing. On the back end, we had Chris Phillips and Jared Cowan. So our
big boys
average,
on
like,
the
if you
back end too,
averaged,
yeah.
if you averaged our weight out, it was like, and this is not even kidding, it was like 220. Like, that was like the average weight.
Yeah.
Like, average height was like 6'2". Like, the smallest guy for us was Zach Smith, and he'll, like, he can fight.
Yeah.
So it was just like we had not even pound for pound, but like if you went through the league and you got every team like to dress their toughest group of guys and put them on the ice, like that stacks up against anybody.
You guys would have been pretty good there,
against
yeah.
anybody. And they had Moen could kind of fight, and Ryan White was a little weasel. Great teammate by all accounts. I never remember his teammate. Like, apparently he's a great teammate, like which is great. Armstrong, same thing. Like, teammates loved him, but
yeah,
like,
but they weren't big fighters. Like Ryan White, I remember he used to throw his weight around stuff, but he didn't fight much.
No, they weren't in the weight class was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a gong show, but that was
So
that was
did you just happen to line up beside Armstrong?
Well,
or were you like,
we lined up next to him, and then Ryan White, for whatever reason, like off the face-off, decided to two-hand Zach Smith, and so I heard it, and so it was just like you're turning around trying to assess the situation. And earlier in the series, like because of the comments, like I had a discussion with Paul about like the discussion was like he never said anything, but he was like Armstrong or Prust. He's like if you get a chance, like clean.
Yeah. If
you get a chance, you just kind of. He always had his glasses down at the end of his nose, like he was sitting in his office. He was just kind of gives me the nod. Like if you get a chance to deal with these guys, like deal with them because they were shooting off their mouth in the paper, right?
Yeah.
Like they were.
So does he call you in for that, or did you go to him and say, "Hey man, I got this"?
Well, he called me in because that was like when I was going to start playing in the series. Like he was letting me know that
you're in.
Yeah, you're in. Here's
happened.
some stuff. Here's some like. Well, clearly you know what's happened, but it's like if you get a chance, like to take a shot at one of those guys, not in a way that was gonna. I mean, it's playoffs. You're not gonna try to hurt the team, but like if you get a chance to take a shot at the guy, take a shot at the guy. And so that's what that was. It was like I went after him because I saw him. And I'm like, Smitty's fine. He's getting up. Like, he can handle himself. I'm not worried about anyone on the ice at that point because it's like no one's on the ice.
You don't have to rush and grab Moen. Like,
right,
you'll
because
be all right.
it's like everyone's all right in that. So
you would have probably been the biggest.
Yeah.
You
and
were
so my next thought was like Armstrong because he was on the ice. So I was like, so I went right after him. And you know what was funny was I bumped into him because he's doing the TV thing now.
Yeah.
I was down in Red Deer for the prospects game. Was in Red Deer this year, like CHL top prospects, and he was doing the show, and so we bumped into one another, and we just both started laughing because it's the first time we've seen each other since that happened.
Remember when I put you in the
I was trying to choke you? It didn't work because of my elbow pads, but yeah, it was that was fun.
That was a huge hit, though. I mean,
times.
all that came from just the hit, the Gryba hit. Yeah.
Anyways, long story short,
long story short, you got to play, and the rest of the series got really physical.
Yeah, and it was fun.
So that was good.
And then I played one game against the Penguins, the first one,
and that was it.
And I started the series.
Yeah. And then, I
started the series, had one shift against Crosby's line, had a couple shifts that game, and that was it. I was done.
So then does McLean call you back in and be like, hey, look, different type of series.
Different type of series. Probably going to not need you for this one.
No, but the thing with Gryba is that I think he seems pretty content with it because he loves the hunting and the fishing and the grilling and he's probably
let's
wants
talk
to
about
get
his.
off.
I mean, we'll save it. We'll talk about the grilling.
Yeah. We'll
talk about because we were roommates. About how he started. He's done his own thing, but we'll talk about who really got him into this whole cooking thing.
Listen to this.
We'll
okay, I like that. That's good. Okay, I do want to talk about this. It's not sports related, but you guys didn't watch the Emmys last night, did you?
Nope.
No. Okay, I didn't think you were. I didn't want to talk about the Emmys, but I did want to talk about what's the best show that you've watched in the last year. Oh. Do you guys have a lot of time for TV? Like, just for people who listen, let's give them a show to watch here. Like,
do you want like trash? Like trash TV?
No, well, there's no such thing.
No, like
this
is the guy who was a cable guy for 11 years. Man. Like, there's no such thing.
There's no such thing. You need all the channels. All the channels.
All good.
Yeah.
You know what? If I have a guilty pleasure from a TV standpoint that my wife and I watch regularly is Married at First Sight.
Oh, I've never watched that.
The show called
I've never
Married
even
at
heard
First
of it.
That's trash.
That is trash. It's absolute trash.
Oh God.
But it's. I mean, you guys say watch. Oh, we watched The Bachelor. No, that's not. The Bachelor is real reality TV. It's great.
Shine me in a better light.
If you haven't watched it, it's like they have marriage experts, so like relationship experts. They do like some like psychology. They do interviews basically, and it's essentially blind marriage. The first time they meet each other is at the altar, and they have cameras following them around for the first 8 weeks, and they have to decide if it's going to work or not. And it's brilliant because it's like, well, of course, giving your marriage a perfect chance to thrive means having cameras follow you around for the first 8 weeks when you don't know the person that you just got married to. And they probably
that's wild to me.
Yeah, it is. It's sometimes some of the people right away you're like, oh, this could actually work. This is interesting. I want to see how they like deal with these issues.
Does it ever work?
Stuff. Yeah.
Really?
Figure this stuff out. And then there's some people where it's just like the person basically lied about who they were as an individual going into it. And you're like, this person isn't the person that people thought that they were getting matched with. Like they just go do their own thing, or they're meatheads or whatever the case is. And you're just like, then it turns into a train wreck, and you're like, I can't not watch because this is a train wreck.
Is there like a follow-up show called Divorced 8 weeks later? Is that
they do like
a
check-in.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, so that's not going to win an Emmy.
No.
I was thinking about like actual shows.
No.
But
I started watching Woo Assassins on Netflix.
You started watching the movie Assassins?
Woo Assassins.
Woo Assassins.
Woo Assassins. It's your show.
Like campy kung fu.
Really?
And it's like doesn't take itself seriously, so it's like so bad. It's like I'm like this is
so
awesome.
That's awesome then.
Oh, good.
Gager, what about you, buddy?
Oh man, there's a lot. But I guess if we're looking at pure enjoyment with my wife, we got into that Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
That's a solid show.
My wife watched that show.
But the thing is, it doesn't put men in the best light. So,
Have you guys noticed that most TV does not?
no, yeah, but it's
Never does.
it's really,
Really?
bad. So
it never
I'm trying to
does.
think.
if you're looking for any sort of cuddling afterwards,
Yeah, it's not happening.
Not happening. So what I would do is I would supplement Animal Kingdom.
Okay.
And it's a lot of shirtless surfer guys, good looking dudes. So I
Like
could
you
get-
when you were younger.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was gonna say right now, it's
Yeah.
like this is just like the direct mental comparison.
no, so you gotta put in with, if you're gonna go Handmaid's Tale, you need something else if you want to.
So you got to mix it in. I heard
Mix
that
it in.
Animal Kingdom's pretty good,
It's
actually.
awesome.
Is it really? Like, it's worth checking out?
It's basically a full, like, a series, a Point Break series. Like,
What?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
How did nobody describe it to me as that
And
earlier?
it's a true story.
No,
I
actually,
guess
never-
it's
never seen
it was based on a family from Australia, but it's basically it's 30 hours of Point Break so far.
I've never seen Point Break.
What?
What? The original or the remake?
Either?
Oh, dude. Okay, you've got to watch Point Break between now and Thursday.
I probably won't.
I'll bring you the DVD. I have it.
Probably still won't watch it.
This might go to one guy and a goalie pretty soon.
The Nielson and Gage podcast, episode 1 on Thursday. What?
Oh, you have
So
to.
are you anti Keanu Reeves? Are you anti Patrick Swayze?
No.
Or are you just have never watched it
No,
and you
just
refuse
never
to
watched
watch it?
I mean, I'm refusing to watch it because you guys are trying to force me to watch it.
Man, I liked the first Point Break so much that I even kind of liked the second Point Break,
Yeah,
even though it was a different
yeah.
movie. I was like, oh, this is still just a really good story.
I named my son Bodie.
Because of that?
Yeah.
You named your son after Point Break?
Yeah, well, indirectly. That came out
Can you
later.
guys
But
give me like a summary? Like what? I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, have you watched Fast and the Furious?
Like a gazillion years ago.
Yeah, well, it's like that, but with surfboards.
yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, to
So, like-
summarize. but
like,
it came out before
You
Fast
never
and
had
Furious.
me. You never had your surfboard.
Pretty much. Very similar. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Inch your mouth.
Yeah, you know, you've got to feel the wave, right? Like wow, I can't believe
It's called
that.
drifting.
Oh, you're going to love Animal Kingdom.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I will then.
Yeah.
Good. I'm always looking for shows to watch.
Yeah.
While I'm flying these football games that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And now, last time I was on a trip. Don't watch this. I don't know. Maybe you guys. Well, no, you probably haven't. It's called Dark. It's on
Oh,
Netflix.
yeah,
It's like a
Netflix one?
time travel thing,
Yeah.
but it's all dubbed over.
Oh.
Like they dub it over with English. And I know
Yeah.
already. I started watching. I was like, is something wrong with my headphones? Like the audio seems a little bit off. And then I was like, oh, that's why they have the subtitles here too, because it's. Yeah, so don't watch that one. Don't watch that one. But yeah, okay. Well, that's good. I can't believe. Let's wrap up the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real buzzkill, Cass.
How is that a buzzkill?
I just can't believe. Hernan in the corner. You watch Point Break?
No, I haven't either.
Oh,
There you go.
Oh.
I didn't know what it was about
You know
either,
what-
and I'm
you know what's
happy
gonna
Matt.
hap- yeah.
I'm happy Matt asked what it's about because I have no idea, and I always hear you talking about it, and I just
It's some classic lines in there, though. Like anything with like,
exactly.
Utah. Give me two.
Yeah,
You know?
Give me two. It's oh my god.
Nope.
Okay, well, let's wrap this up. I'm done with this now. I'm getting out of here. Wow. Okay. Well, good show today, guys. This was fun.
That was fun.
This was
Number
fun.
learned a
3,
lot.
we did it.
I learned a lot
did.
today. That was
Yeah, I
good.
thought we did a pretty good podcast today.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. Two Guys and a Goalie, presented to you by Oddshark, Sport Clips, and Popeyes Chicken. We'll be back with episode 4 on Thursday. Well, 2 of us probably will be. Oh my goodness.
Me and Hernan are starting our own thing.
For Hernan in the corner and Kassian and Gager, I'm Nielson. Thanks for listening.